Welcome to Nine Ether Truth. I'm your host, Trinity God X. The title of this video is The Akashic Records of the Earthly Melanated Gods. In this video, I will be talking about what is the Akashic Records, why is the Akashic Records important, who possesses the Akashic Records, and who doesn't. For those who have subscribed to my video that are Nine Ether, thank you so much. I appreciate you. For the non-Nine Ethers, unsubscribe. You're a parasite and unwanted. And for those who comment under my video to show appreciation of my efforts, meta-ase, which means thank you. I appreciate you as well. Love and light. So let's just dive right into it. This is going to be kind of a quick video, maybe 10-15 minutes in duration. I haven't put out a video in a while since the Aquarius video that I submitted. I like to think that that's a documentary because it's so long. However, it's chock full of high vibration enlightenment. So if you haven't had a chance to view the video that I put out about the dawn of the Aquarius or the coming of the Aquarius cycle, please go ahead and click on the video on the sidelines or search my channel for that video. So let's get right into it. What is the Akashic Records? There's many definitions out there. However, Trinity God X will give you the simplified version as usual. So basically, the Akashic Records is a collection of all of melanated X chromosome God's existence. Now, I do make a distinction and state melanated X chromosome gods because obviously other races are trying to tag along to our legacy and throw themselves in there as if everything pertains to them and they're included in everything spiritual. Incorrect. Remember that these are Tamahu. They are hybrid GMO. The Y chromosome melanated made them. The Y chromosome melanated is their god, because they created the Tamahu. That being stated, there's nothing divine or spiritual about these GMO synthetics. So on to what the Akashic Records is. It's simply a spiritual collection of X chromosome melanated gods' existence. It's not something tangible, obviously. It's not something that can be measured. It's basically a non-physical record within the X chromosome melanated god, and all the important, significant events of our ancestors, our existence, if we reincarnated back into the physical, are all kept deep within us. So that is the Akashic Records. So just to let you know, just as I implied, it is actually tied to the X chromosome melanated god, and only she possesses the Akashic Records. So that being stated, everything is duality, yin and yang. We do have a physical record of X chromosome melanated god's existence. That physical record is referred to as DNA memory. So for melanated beings, X and Y chromosomes that have quote unquote a slave mentality, even though we were never slaves, we were always prisoners of war, POWs, taken by force. That means that that person is tapping back into their DNA memory. For these Y chromosome men that keep having babies and impregnating many different women without marrying, this is their melanated DNA memory when they were locked in a barn by Massa on the plantation and forced to breed many women. Wicked Massa brought many females to him, the Mandingo, his own daughter, his mother, his cousin, his sister, and all he had to do, all he was trained to do, was stick his phallus into their yoni to produce a future POW, prisoner of war. So fast forward many centuries later, and you can see this DNA memory being played out in the inferior being Y chromosome melanated in their behavior when they impregnate various women without a spiritual bond to her as he should have, without putting marriage, matrimony first as he should do, without staying with her long term for a lifetime as he should. And I'm speaking of most, however, not all. So DNA memory is the physical aspect, whereas the Akashic records is the spiritual aspect. Now, you may say, doesn't Y chromosome melanated have Akashic records? If everything is yin and yang, they have a physical, they should have a spiritual. They have a residue of spiritual, however, they don't have complete spiritual anything as the melanated X chromosome God, because she is the embodiment of spiritual, whereas the Y chromosome melanated came out of her womb here on Earth. The Y chromosome melanated did not derive from the heaven realm as the X chromosome melanated God did. Therefore, in order for him to get connected to spiritual anything or Akashic records anything, he must link with the source, the life force. That would be X chromosome melanated God through the act of fornication or consummating the marriage. So that's the closest that he can get to the Akashic records or spiritual anything for the most part. Now, that's not to say that Y chromosome melanated can't be spiritual. They can act spiritual. However, for the most part, their nature is not spiritual. The masculine is physical and the feminine melanated is spiritual. So onto why the Akashic records are important. It's important because having your Akashic records activated and tapped back into is important for the gods to be greater gods. You can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. Now, if you had watched the Aquarius video that I put out, I had stated that there's no such thing as time. We are in a cycle. That is our existence. And that's correct. However, everything is yin and yang. So therefore, all that our ancestors experienced, all that the gods experienced, is locked deep within our essence. Now, not everyone can tap into the Akashic records. In order to tap into your Akashic records, your mind, body, soul has to be clean and you have to be vibrating on the highest frequency. That being stated, there's a lot of things that you can do in order to tap back into your Akashic records as an X chromosome melanated God. Eat clean, be in an environment where you get lots of sun, clean air, fresh water, eat organically. Do not eat meat or dairy or GMO or junk food or fast food, and increase your knowledge, advance your knowledge, learn metaphysics, learn quantum physics, learn alchemy, reveal truths, and see hoaxes with your first eye and be able to pick apart truth from lie, teach the babies the truth, homeschool, home birth, and so on and so forth. So these are just recommendations on how the X chromosome God can tap back into her Akashic records. Moving on. Who possesses the Akashic records and who does not? Well, I kind of touched on it. It's very clear that, first of all, the Tamahu do not possess the Akashic records. They do, however, have DNA memory. They are very much tied to the physical, more so than the Y chromosome melanated, because it was the Y chromosome melanated that created them. The Y chromosome melanated has residue of spirituality because he derived from God's womb. The Tamahu, on the other hand, did not derive from God's womb and therefore does not have any Akashic records. So when you see a Tamahu acting barbaric, being a pedophile, raping, sexing animals, having sex with dead, killing, lying, deceiving, being wicked, that is the Tamahu's nature. That is the Tamahu's DNA memory playing itself out. When melanated people act as the oppressor, they are acting outside of their nature. And they are acting from Stockholm Syndrome. So you have to be very clear on the difference between Akashic records versus DNA memory, who has it, who doesn't, who has residue of spirituality, who has complete DNA memory, void of spirituality, as I just stated and clarified moments ago. So the Y chromosome melanated has, as I mentioned earlier, residue of the Akashic records because he derives from God's womb. However, in order for him to tap back into his feminine side, and I don't mean in a homosexual way, I mean in a natural, organic way, he needs to return to the source, the life force, the X chromosome melanated God, through consummation of the marriage or through the sex act to create the new heir to the throne or a prodigy. I keep saying Akashic records as in plural, however it should be Akashic record because it's just one. However, the God in heaven, the macro to the micro, X chromosome melanated gods would not house such an important spiritual record in Y chromosome melanateds, which are the lower halves of the earthly X chromosome melanated gods. First and foremost, the Akashic record is passed on from X chromosome melanated god to X chromosome melanated god. If you look at the behavior of most of the Y chromosome melanated within the matrix and look at the epidemic of fatherless household and how most Y chromosome melanated disrespect the X chromosome melanated god, most of the time take her for granted, tries to outdo her, has this fictitious competition with her, thinks that she is his adversary for the most part. Logically speaking, and from a common sense perspective, the Most High would not entrust such a vital spiritual record to be housed within our lower half Y chromosome melanated. So it's very common sense for the ones who are the high spiritual X chromosome melanated gods here on earth to house the Akashic records within their essence. So that is another reason why the Akashic records lie in the X chromosome melanated gods here on earth and not the Y chromosome melanated here on earth. It would not make logical sense for the Y chromosome melanateds to possess the Akashic records. The Y chromosome melanated came out of the earthly X chromosome melanated god's womb many years after she descended from the heaven realm and came here into the physical. So if the Y chromosome melanated did possess the Akashic records, that would mean there would be a portion, the beginning portion of existence, that would not be accounted for as per their existence. So it would only make sense that the first being on planet Earth be the only one exclusively to house the Akashic records on her mitochondrial DNA. And as I stated before, the Akashic record is passed down from X chromosome melanated god to X chromosome melanated god. So basically, in a nutshell, that is the Akashic records of the X chromosome melanated gods. Please like, share, or subscribe. If you have anything to comment, please do so under this video. Do check out my other videos. Until next time, this is Trinity God X saying to my 9 Ether Nation, oneness.